So in the last lesson, we learned that we should find miracles in everything and understand that everything is a miracle. And then we also learned, on the one hand, a person must engage in natural means to obtain our livelihood, and on the other hand, we have to realize that it's not us doing the thing that's causing the livelihood to come to us. So excuse me just a minute while I have a sip of coffee because my voice is a bit squeaky. First coffee. So it's merely a vessel for God's blessing, which is the true source of our livelihood. Knowing this affects a person's attitude towards his efforts, both when his efforts are successful in obtaining his livelihood and also when they're not. So if he's successful, then he shouldn't rely on the means to provide for him and obsess. Well, yes, when we go to work, we know that going to work produces the income, but we still, at the back of our mind, we still need to remember that it's our friend who is who is providing it. And when we're successful, we have to remember that. But when we fail, we're coming to the part where everything seems to fail in a minute, but when we're successful, we shouldn't obsess with it and think, oh my gosh, this is the only thing that there is, and become so obsessed with it. But when we fail, we also have to remember that it's not, it may be not ready yet, it may be not decreed for you, and even if you did something else, let's say when you obsess about writing an email, and that email goes to your boss, and your boss is like, what kind of email is that? Like, and he criticizes you. You shouldn't obsess because you tried your best, and who knows that your boss wouldn't have reacted just as much to a different email. It's just like unhooking your mind story about that you did that thing, caused that thing to happen. Yes, you can be sensible and do the best you can, but once you've done that, you have to also trust God. So it's like balancing the two, balancing your autonomy that God has given you over your body and your co-creation that God has given you over your livelihood, with the ultimate understanding that God gives you everything. So it's a little confusing. I just want to check that everyone's clear on those two concepts. If there's anything you want to ask or to clarify, then do that now. And if not, we'll move on.
It's clear.
Okay, lovely. So now we're going to a chapter called When Everything Seems to Fail, which I'm sure at least some of us are familiar with, when those times in life where you're just doing everything and nothing is working. All right, so Rabbi Bachia asks 1,000 years ago, what if he is not successful? If he does not obtain his livelihood through those means into which he puts his effort. Then he should consider that perhaps his daily sustenance is already in his possession. So there's a few different ways of looking at this. You could think, well, maybe that's what Hashem thinks you need for that day. Today, you only need that. So it could be that you're looking at things wrong and saying, like, you don't actually realize, but you actually have, in this moment, you actually have everything you need. You're fine. On the other hand, one of the explanations here, Rabbi Yaakov Emden argues that, was it Yaakov Emden? Yeah, other commentaries, the Marpil Nefesh says that it could be you have something in your possession already that you might be able to sell, and you didn't realize you've actually got. It might be an extra object that you own that you're supposed to sell for your subsistence. That's the Net of the Kodesh who says that. Alternatively, it's possible that his livelihood will come to him through another means in which he did not yet put effort. So that's for you to have a think about. Like, if you've done everything sensible within your power, and nothing is working, and your wife and kids are starving, or your husband, or whatever, then you have to have a think and think, okay, that didn't work, let's try something else. So it's about being practical without worrying about it, because always to know that Hashem will take care of you. And maybe the reason you came here in this life was not to do the thing you thought, but try something else, to be open. In any event, in any event, it's still fitting for him to busy himself with means that could bring you a livelihood. You shouldn't be lax in the pursuit, providing that they're still fitting for your character traits, your physical strength, your faith, and your world to come. So just because something didn't work that you like doesn't mean that the next thing you do has to be something that you don't like. Okay, the Yiftach in there, he should really rely on this, Al Elokav, on Hashem. Hashem will not abandon you, and he will not leave you weak. And he will not hide from you. As it said, Tov Hashem lema'oz, v'yom tzara v'yodea chosebo. He should rely on God that he will not forsake him in his time of need, nor will he weaken him, nor will he ignore him or her when misfortune comes. As it says in the Pasuk in Nahum, the Lord is good, he is a stronghold on a day of trouble, and is cognizant, he knows, he sees you, of those who trust in him. So all through this is running a seam of emunah. Whether it works, whether it doesn't work, we know what to do. There's always the next step. What's the next step? Okay, not to worry about, obsess about, what did I do wrong? I should never have done that thing. Why did I study that in university? Why did I not do this thing that this other person told me to do? None of that. This is all your life's journey. And it could be that you were supposed to do this thing for a short while, but now you have a rethink. So always to have peace of mind, as they say, my parents used to say in German and Yiddish, sei ruhig, be ruhig. How do you say that? Like, have nachat ruach. This verse serves as proof that God pays attention to the needs of those who trust in him. The author continues by applying this principle to health, where a person must trust in God and at the same time make efforts to remain healthy. Okay. So the commentaries are at this point are I'm going to offer you another explanation on this. In any event, it's still fitting for a person to busy himself with means that could bring you a livelihood. So, I mean, there comes a point in life where you do have to have a rethink, but you shouldn't sit there thinking about it for too long. You should get active and get busy as soon as you can, because it's the point of the world is to be an actor in the world, to try different things. So, not to exhaust yourself, you do need a mental break between one thing and the other, but not in an excess where you start to get into a panic mode. So even if it's just one small action per day, but just to know that those are not non-negotiables in the day, you're going to, let's say, look at one job site, apply for 2 jobs, go to 2 meetings, go to a networking event, but always stay active. And even though God desires human effort in achieving goals, we must still be mindful of 2 things. Number 1, creating a vessel, as you have to create, like Hashem is waiting to pour abundance down to you, but if you don't apply, it's like saying, oh, I wish I'd win the lottery. If I win the lottery, this, that, and the other. And the other guy says, well, have you bought a lottery ticket? And the first one says, no. So you can't win the lottery unless you buy a lottery ticket. You've got to be in the game. Got to have skin in the game. So even if Hashem is waiting to give you bracha, we have to create the vessel for that. So the reason for making the vessel must be dictated solely by the fact that this is what Hashem commanded us to do. So if the person considers the vessel to be harmful in its own right, or beneficial in its own right, he's kind of losing the point of bitachon. It's not about the vessel, it's about what's coming into the vessel. The vessel is just the vessel. The blessing will come, whichever vessel, but you just got to pick one. So we are commanded to do only what we're capable of doing, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not make unfair demands of his created beings. Says that in Avodah Zarah. Therefore, if a person is incapable of making a vessel, that in itself is a sign that the merciful God has exempted him from the need to do so. Interesting. This should not weaken his bitachon that his request will be fulfilled. That's very interesting. So, these days they have this policy, and new HR are very woke, and they say, well, there's all kinds of illnesses, and some of them are unseen illnesses or hidden disabilities, or sometimes people need to take a day, just a mental break for a day. I believe that this is clearly coming into the point where it says if a person is incapable of making a vessel, that itself is a sign from the Ribono Shel Olam that you don't need to go to work that day. You don't. You just need to take a break, because Hashem is giving you a clear sign, and that itself is a sign. And that's not like, oh no, I need to be making the vessel, I need to be making the vessel when you're feeling really ill, whether it's mentally, whether it's emotionally, whether it's physically. Very clear here from the Igros Kodesh of the Lubavitcher Rebbe that you still can hold on to your bitachon that Hashem will provide for you, because you creating the vessel that day is you having a day out to just rest yourself. As I prefaced earlier, as mentioned at the end of chapter 3, a person's choice of occupation should be based on his talents and physical strength, as long as it's permitted by the Torah. That's just going over, even when choosing your new vocation, it should still be in line with, it has to be right for you, shouldn't put you into physical harm or spiritual harm, etc. Where are we? Okay. Means that naturally help them remain healthy, such as vitamins and herbs. Even in the days of Rabbi Bachya, they had supplements. The author also excludes superstitions, which are halakhically prohibited. So when it says you should keep yourself at peak health, it does include taking natural things that are good for you, like herbs and vitamins. But I was joking about the supplements, obviously. But in those days, it was understood that in medieval times and before, people always had. Actually, it's interesting now. Just having had breakfast, because I was told that when you have avocado and salads first for your carbs, you can actually lose weight even if you eat the same amount of food, because bitter herbs like rocket, like naturally growing lettuces, they get your digestive juices flowing. And these days, a lot of times we just stick carbs in our mouth, but we don't preface. So in the olden days, they used to, before any meal, they would have a herb, the digestive aperitif, I don't know what you call it, like beforehand. So it's very interesting when we look into what keeps us healthy. A lot of it is things that people used to do in the olden days anyway, just naturally. Okay, the methods that people customarily use to cure diseases. Medicine can often have a placebo effect where the person is healed because he acted in the customary way. Similarly, a person is also often cured naturally, which is possible even if he takes medicine. So that's saying he would have been healed whether he took medicine or not. This is why medicine differs from food, because when consuming food, the person naturally receives the needed nutrients. That's just what I was saying. Medicine, on the other hand, can be unpredictable. This is also why we find a special blessing in the Talmud for the success of medical procedures. So basically, I think what Rabbi Bachya is pointing out in the commentaries is that prevention is better than cure. So keeping ourselves healthy involves eating the right food, but we shouldn't have to have medicines and supplements because that's always good. The natural things that are in the foods itself is what the Borei Olam created for us. Okay. Kamosha Tziva Habori Yizale, as Hashem said, Rapo Yirape, he shall surely be healed. So Rapo Yirape means Hashem will heal us, but we also have to heal ourselves. It's a double. It's like Rapo Yirape, he will heal us, we will heal ourselves, or the doctor will heal us. And I also noticed when we say Shemona Esra, the Amida said Rafa'inu Hashem b'nei Rafe. You heal us, but we also have to be willing to be healed. We can't ask Hashem to heal us while we're stuffing our faces with Coke and pizza all day and not eating anything that's healthy. מבלי שיבטח על הסיבות הבריאות והחולי שהן מועילות לו או מזיקות אלא לרשות הבורא. But he should do so without relying on the causes of health and illness, understanding that in and of themselves, that these foods or the things have the ability to heal or harm him. Rather, all these things only are doing that when the Creator wills it. Okay, so I think we're going to stop there. Are there any questions?
Thank you, it was wonderful.
Welcome. I think that was quite a lot already. So I think with 2 points, it's enough to sort of filter into our day. But okay, we're going to jump off. I'm going to stop recording.